Donald Trump's narrow escape from financial calamity is raising a few eyebrows today. The ex-president was thrown a lifeline last week when an appeals court reduced the bond in his civil fraud case to just $175 million. He posted that bond late last night, sparing him from having his assets seized while he appeals the larger $454 million penalty. And what we're learning about just who came to the rescue. It was a company run by a billionaire supporter of Donald Trump's. According to Bloomberg, billionaire Don Hankey, who is the chairman of Knight Specialty Insurance, said this, quote, Knight reached out to Trump's team to offer its services after hearing about the former president's trouble arranging a bond. Despite his history of support for the ex-president, Hankey telling Bloomberg this, quote, yes, I voted for him in the past, but this is a business deal, and this is what we do. I've never met Donald Trump or talked to him on the phone. We're back with Melissa, Michael, Basil, and Molly. Melissa, there are geopolitical national security concerns and questions. Pete Strzok wrote a whole book on it about where a president's money comes from, particularly when the sources are foreign. And there's nothing illegal about this, but where is there sort of an ethics question when, as Donald Trump tells us all the time, he's running for president?
I mean, there are a lot of shades of the civil fraud trial and Gates, a lot of the shades of the questions that have arisen over the years about Donald Trump's finances more generally. When Knight Insurance stepped in to offer this bond, it did so after many other bond companies refused to do so because the president, or the former president, wasn't a good risk. A lot of his assets are not liquid. He didn't have the cash reserves to be able to put up the collateral for a bond. You actually have to put up more than the bond is actually worth in order to get it. And so I think there are big questions about what Mr. Hankey did in order to allow Knight Insurance to go forward with this. There's some mix of cash and other assets that were used to secure the bond. I think we should know where the cash came from. Is it Donald Trump's cash? Is it cash from some other source? Those are all questions that sort of go to that broader question of who is funding him, who is now beholden to him, who is he beholden to? And all of that, I think, is critically important as a matter of transparency going into the election.
Michael Steele, this is NBC's reporting on some of this. Hankey has been an investor in Axos Bank, the financial institution that refinanced Donald Trump's loans on Trump Tower and Trump National Doral, Miami in 2022. Axos Bank has loaned Trump $100 million in his refinancing of Trump Tower and $125 million more for Doral. Hankey, who's this billionaire, is believed to be the biggest shareholder in Axos Bank. We should say that he claims that he wasn't aware of the Trump Tower loan at the time. Your thoughts?
Okay, sure. I'm going to lend you $125 million and not know about it? Or not be aware
Three
of it?
times, right? I mean, let's see if I can count. Trump Tower, Trump National Doral, and his bail. I don't know.
See, this is the thing. They all think we're stupid. They all think they can just put this ish out in the ether and we're just like, oh, okay, well, that just doesn't make sense. I mean, there's a reason why 30-some other banks and surety firms said no. And so there has to be a reason why he said yes. And that's because, especially because he's running for president. Not despite, not, oh, as a side thought, absolutely because it's important to know, how is this funded? Again, this is only $175 million of a $454 million judgment. So the question still remains, okay, what happens to the other, $270-some million that's not being discussed right now? There's that piece. Is there some back deal to sort of cover that down the road? How was this deal put together? And that level of scrutiny has to be a part of this conversation. I'm sorry, you just cannot get away with, oh, well, I've never met the guy. I've never, really talked to him. But I've given him over $100 million 3 times.
Yeah,
Stop.
and I mean, I guess your point, too, the 30 that said no, if you just take the statistics of the industry, maybe half and half voted for him before, right? It's not like all 30 were, what do they call, the Trump deranged people. They probably included people supporting him. And again, because one of the challenges with covering Trump is we don't imagine what he would do because he cares so little about the institutions where most of the people that talk about him on TV hail from. I think you have to put on the table, did he promise him he could be his acting Treasury Secretary? Did he promise him something that this guy, who none of us knows, cares about? But because it's 30-1, right? 30 people like him said no, one said yes. It does create a lot of sort of heat and attention around why he was different from the other 30. And I guess my question for you, Michael, is do you think we'll ever find out what it was?
Yeah, I think we will, because these things always get exposed at some point. They just do. And particularly given now that there are a lot of interests out there, not just in media and politics, but there are a lot of other groups out there that are on the battle line of trying to safeguard the presidency, the democracy, and the rule of law, and the processes that we have tried to live by, sometimes not as well as other times, but nonetheless, we've all concertedly moved the country forward in a positive direction that will be interested in this. And I think it is appropriate to know. Yeah, in any other business transaction, yeah, you probably, that level of detail is not necessarily warranted. But I bet you in those business transactions, you weren't talking to someone who was running for governor or president or U.S. senator. So it does matter right now. And it's important for I think if I'm the running this company, I'm just putting the whole thing out there. Why? Why not? Well, I don't understand why you just can't disclose, okay, here's the terms of the deal. This is what the court's going to want to know. So we should know.
How it works is you got a 98% offset, okay? There's big gaps here is when you're selling a whole bunch of electricity back to the utility company.